Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Thursday's assembly. Is it time for me to ring my bell again? I think it might be. I really do quite fancy standing at the front of the school and ringing that bell to let everybody know, and then you wouldn't have to set an alarm clock, would you? You'd be able to hear the bell and then you could come skipping into school. Maybe it's time to bring it back. I certainly like it better than the electronic bells that we used to have until this year. So here we are again, our Victorian bell. Are you ready to hear it again? I need to stand up. Here we go. All those years ago. So I really do think this was made during the reign of Queen Victoria, which is amazing, isn't it? What a great artifact to have. Here we go. Cover your ears, or don't cover your ears, whichever you prefer. Let's start the day with the ringing of the school bell. Here we go. Ooh, I feel like I'm learning that technique a little bit. You've got to really go steady up and down. So good morning, Victorian children. I don't think I'd be smiling if I was a Victorian headmistress. You'd be sitting in your rows and you would be doing your very best to be very good the whole time, because you wouldn't have wanted to get into trouble. And at the start of Victoria's reign, girls, you wouldn't be here at all. You would be at home learning sewing and needlework, because all your ambition in life was about attracting a nice husband. And boys, you might have, if you were rich, have been to school, but of course if you were poor or in not a too rich family, you would have been out at work. Working from about the age of 7, which is better, to be receiving an education or doing dangerous jobs where you could quite easily get injured, going down coal mines or up chimneys to sweep out chimneys. I don't think they had much of a childhood, early Victorian children. Okay. Many poor families could not afford to send their children to school. And that's why only rich people went to school, because you had to pay to go to school at the beginning of the Victorian period. And that only changed a little bit later on. So poor families needed children to work from an early age to bring money into the home. So these girls and boys in this Victorian picture, I think they're making something there. Was another little boy asleep, look there. No shoes on. They would not have been to school, and they would have been out working from a very early age, not for themselves, but to bring money into the family. Children who worked every day except Sunday could go to Sunday school at the church. They could learn as they read from the Bible. So some children from poor families, if they worked all day, they could go to a Sunday school at the church where they might learn to read from the Bible. And ragged schools were set up in big cities for poor children. They learnt reading, writing, maths and skills for work such as shoemaking and sewing. And then something very, very important happened in 1870, so just 4 years before the old school was built. In 1870, the government made new laws saying that all children from the age of 5 to 10 could go to school and they wouldn't have to pay. And many, many schools were built at that time, just like ours. So in 1870, the law was changed saying all children needed to go to school. So of course then hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new schools were built, which is why so many schools, old school buildings, look a bit like ours, because they're from the Victorian period. So it was only 4 years after the new law that our school was ready to go, ready to accept children. Oh, listen to this. Some schools had huge classes with about 200 pupils. Goodness me, look at that. That's like doing an assembly, is that one. So the teacher's in the middle, and then all of those tens and hundreds of children are sat around with one teacher. No teaching assistants then. It would be just the teacher in charge of educating the class. Goodness me. Now, a new law in 1880 said that all children had to go to school. So it became the law, not just a choice that children had to come to school. Basic schooling became free for everyone in 1891. So after 1880, children who didn't want to go to school were made to go. Look, here's a chap who's been out on the streets and finding some ruffians there, some boys who maybe were out doing something else, possibly working, and he's got them there and he's going to make them go to school because it was the law to go to school. Victorian teachers, now just have a look at your teacher and look how lovely they are. Go on, have a good look. And how nice and how kind and how funny and how friendly. Victorian teachers were very strict. Children had to behave well all the time, and the teachers worked very hard to teach such big classes. There were harsh punishments for children who did not obey their teacher. Often they were beaten for being naughty, so they were smacked and beaten, and many children were afraid at school. And this boy in this picture is standing on a stool and wearing a dunce's hat as a punishment. So this little boy's been naughty. So they had a special pointed cap with the letter D, and dunce means stupid. So this little boy had obviously got into trouble for not doing his lessons well, and he had to stand on a chair and wear a hat and be an example, I suppose, to everybody else. Goodness me. Oh, I'm very glad we don't do that anymore. Can you imagine if you were struggling with your work? You just need help, don't you? You don't need to stand on a chair in a dunce's hat. Goodness me. What might you find in a Victorian classroom? Some objects might be familiar today because we still have them, such as a chalkboard, a map or a globe, but there were no calculators or computers. Victorian children wrote by scratching on a slate. The slate could be wiped clean to use again. Most children learned lessons by heart or copied from the blackboard. So here's two girls with their slate, and they would be maybe copying something from the teacher's blackboard there. And a slate was a bit like a chalkboard, so you could just wipe it and reuse it again and again, a bit like our whiteboards. Is that funny? So they started off as slates, but we still find them useful now, our own little personal whiteboards. Like other lessons, sport and PE was strict. Children stood in long lines in the playground to do exercises called drill together. Victorian schools did not have playtime like schools today. Children played together before or after school. There were no adults in charge, so bigger children often bullied smaller ones. So these boys here, they're not having playtime, they are having a drill session where they were taken out. It's a bit like being in the army, isn't it? They were taken out and they were made to do particular exercises to keep them fit and healthy. Not choose who to play with and play games like we do now. Once they were past the age of 10, the lives of rich and poor children became even more different. Children from richer families might go to grammar schools, and a very few lucky people might go on to university. But poorer children, that wasn't an option. Poorer children learned skills for work and life, such as woodwork or laundry. This was to help them to earn their living. So here, girls, maybe we should bring this back. We've got a group of girls here who are learning how to wash the sheets. They've got their irons and their laundry tubs, and their lesson today is how to wash sheets and iron sheets so that they could maybe go and work in the posh people's houses and help them to keep their houses lovely. Might be fun to do it once, but it's not really an education, is it? What else do we need to know? Okay. Oh, well, I think we've done this. It says, let's find out. Many Victorian school buildings are still in use today. Can you find out when your school was built? Yes, we can. So Bell School was built in 1693. The old school was built in 1874 in the Victorian times. And then, was it 1991 when we moved up to this school building? I think I've got that right. And you can find out more about Victorian schools at your local library, or try to visit the buildings in your area. So there we go. Victorian schools. What do you think? Is it a good thing? it was a good thing that all children were given the right to have an education, but attitudes to children have changed. There used to be a saying that said children should be seen but not heard. Now, I know we all work quietly in our lessons, but you do get plenty of opportunity to talk and to chat. So all in all, I'm very glad that it's 2021, but I'm thankful for the Victorians for realising what an important thing it is for us all to receive a good education. I'll take my Bell back to school, and I'll see you on Friday for something I don't think the Victorians did, our Good Work Assembly. We'll see who's been doing what this week. So have a lovely day, and just be thankful in many ways that we're not in the Victorian times. Bye for now, everyone.